Hello, hello. Welcome back to Afternoon Drive. My name is Drew Moholland. This is my wife, Sarah Conway. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you, Drew?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I feel like it feels like it was a long weekend. I think it's the heat that is making it seem like the days are longer, don't you?
Maybe.
That's
I
what I
don't
think.
know. Maybe it's just the longer days.
Well, you mean post-summer solstice? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Because we actually do have longer days with more sun. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. It's funny you say that today on a day we have a meteorologist on the show. I'm excited about that, huh? See what I did there?
Yeah.
On the segue. Terry Eliasen is going to join us, my old friend from WBZ in Boston when we all used to be under the same roof. Always fun. You've never met Terry before?
No, I have not.
Oh, are we doing coffee mugs already? What do you have there? Is that the almond milk?
Yeah, it needs to be stirred, but it's coffee and almond milk.
Was I supposed to do that? I made you coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You are.
I failed?
Yes. Should
we discuss the get the ponytail going?
Yeah, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's fine.
What? Drew. It doesn't look great.
It doesn't look good. I think you've messed up. You know what's funny?
Drew's hair is in a ponytail.
Which is fine.
It's really not long enough for it, so it's all coming down.
Is that why it hurts when you did it?
Your cousin does it better than I do. I don't know. I'm not very good at hair, but your hair is very big.
My cousin Brad put me in a ponytail recently, and I thought not only did I think it was nice to have the hair out of my eyes, it was just a nice relief. It wasn't going in my ears or anything. You didn't do a good job, though.
No.
It doesn't look great. Brad's better at that, interestingly enough. All right. Well, we got that out of the way. I think I'm going to keep it up.
Okay.
I like it.
I think it's better than a headband.
I've been wearing a headband around the house, folks. Yep, that's the other thing.
But what would be really ideal would be a haircut. So.
Well, I was going to try to go the whole pandemic without a haircut.
I kind of egged this on, and now I'm regretting it.
Yeah, now I'm in. Once I commit.
You're very loyal to the hair.
Oh, what an intro. All right. Terry Eliasen joins us. He's the meteorologist over at WBZ. We used to be under the same roof when WBZ Radio and WBZ TV were all one big happy family there on Soldiers Field Road. I still miss showing up and seeing you guys every morning. Terry, how you been, man?
I'm great, Drew. I tell you what, we really miss you guys. We were kind of, for years, Barry Burbank and I were fighting to get us on BZ Radio more. Couldn't understand why. We're right in the same building. Why don't you guys use us more? And then towards the end of your tenure at that building, we were really, on BZ quite a bit. So we're really sad to have seen you guys go, not just out of the building, but obviously we're not on your air anymore, which is too bad.
Although it doesn't really matter because here we are just talking to each other in a kitchen anyway. So
right, exactly. What difference does it make? And here we are.
Exactly. Well, we should just get it out of the way. You already, as we brought you in here off the air, you already called me out for my hair. So yeah, we addressed it in the open. How's the quarantine hair going for you?
Well, as you can see, I got the hat on, so not very well. My wife has attempted to give me a couple haircuts, and she's okay at it, but I think I'm ready to go back to a barber at this point. I got to tell you, your hair looks amazing. If I had that hair, I would show it off too.
Yeah, it's a little out of control. I don't really know what we're doing with this particular look, but
I always wanted the long hair. I've gone through stints where I tried to learn the guitar. I feel like I want to be. Do you play guitar? I mean, if you look like you do.
I do.
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah.
I'm a poor man's player, but hey.
So I want to be you right now. I was just.
Oh, that's very funny. Well, anyway, but we can talk more about this as we go, of course. But let me ask you, this has been quite the little. Has it been a heat wave? This is the first heat wave of the summer, I guess. Here, and we have 10 days in a row of hot weather coming at us. What's the deal for the summer?
Yeah. So. Heat wave is tricky. So the official definition of a heat wave is 3 days, consecutive days or more of 90 degrees or higher. So Boston only had one day on Saturday where we hit 90 because they're right on the ocean there, and all kinds of sea breezes and wacky things go on. But you go a little bit inland, pretty much everywhere in Merrimack Valley, southern New Hampshire, parts of northern Worcester County, almost all of those areas have had 90 degrees starting with last Thursday. So 4 straight days. So it was an official heat wave up there. Now today, I don't know when this show is airing, but on today, as of Monday, temperatures are kind of being held back by some clouds in Eastern Mass. So I think this may break the heat wave today in the Merrimack Valley, and then we'll get back to the 90s tomorrow.
Okay, cool. So yes, this will end up being a Tuesday. So so there you go. We're all set up for that. What is the outlook for the summer? Is that something you can predict? I mean, we had a winter that I don't think was, I felt it was pretty easy winter.
So it's funny, like you say, is that something you can predict? And I'm sitting there thinking like, yeah, I think I can. But then again, then you mentioned winter, and our winter prediction kind of sucked, just to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
We've certainly fully admitted. So Eric and I think we may have been on, was it a BZ podcast or with you guys? I don't know, but our winter forecast originally was for cold and snowy winter. And the pattern that we expected to come on during the winter didn't come on until like March and April. If you remember, March and April were cold, just kind of nasty, gross months back. It was wet, it was chilly. And that pattern we were anticipating to come on a little bit earlier. So it had that pattern that came on in the end of March and April arrived in January and February, our forecast would have been great. Would have had the snow and the cold, but didn't happen. Needless to say, the summer, we're already, summer has started. So I think at this point we can safely say it's going to be a hotter than average summer. It looks really hot and dry for a good part of the Northeast. And a lot of times the two of those go together in the summertime. The driest areas tend to be the hottest, and that's no coincidence. There are meteorological things at work there. Of course, it's easy to say right now because it's been so hot and dry the last week or so. Oh, hot, dry summer. But there are several reasons why this pattern will probably continue off and on for a good part of the summer. And one of the main ones is La Nina. Mm-hmm. La Nina is forecast to come on in the coming weeks and months. And La Nina is a big driver here for hot, dry summer. So this could be one of those summers where the majority of our precipitation comes in the form of like leftover tropical systems, hurricanes and stuff like that.
Is La Nina something I've been hearing my whole life, or is this a new phenomenon? What is this?
No, it's been around. It kind of so the El Nino craze happened 20 years ago. Yeah. I think it was 1998. We had a really big El Nino, and that became like a buzzword. Yeah. And so ever since, everybody kind of knows El Nino. And I feel like over the last decade or so, the La Nina, which is sort of the opposite of El Nino, has become more popular of a term. And it's basically the exact opposite of what an El Nino is. So an El Nino is the waters off of the equatorial Pacific, off of South America, are warmer than average. And that makes all kinds of things in the atmosphere go crazy, right? Yeah. La Nina is the opposite. It's cooler than average waters in that same ocean. And that has a lot of different effects on the atmosphere. Hard to predict always how it will affect New England because that is some distance away. But more often than not, a La Nina means a hot, dry summer. It also means an active hurricane season. I think more than anything else for this summer, I think the hurricane season may be what we end up remembering when it's all said and done, sadly, unfortunately.
Really? You're predicting hurricanes?
Yeah, and it's not just me. The National Hurricane Center.
I'm going to put it on you. It's going to be you, I think. Yeah.
What's that?
I'm going to put it all on you, I think.
No. I mean, pretty much everybody that predicts, that has a stake in predicting hurricane season has predicted an above average season, an active season, and La Nina has a lot to do with that. Basically, the forces at play that, and El Nino is usually the opposite. So you usually get a down hurricane season, but this year, the waters are really warm in the Gulf of Mexico. They're warm almost all the way in the southern Atlantic out to Africa. I expect there's going to be a real active wave train that pops up. You see those waves coming off of Africa and eventually coming across and turning into hurricanes. I think, before long, that season's going to fire up. And there's really no reason at this point why we wouldn't expect to be a very active season. Now, whether they affect New England or not, whether one of them curves up, that's impossible to predict, of course. But if I were a Florida resident or a Gulf of Mexico resident, Texas, anywhere up to the Carolinas, not that there's much you can do right now, but I would definitely sort of be aware this could be a big season.
Sure.
Go for it.
I don't know if I have. Well, so I mean, I am certainly I don't know a lot about it, but I am very interested in climate change. And do you notice patterns? Like, and do you guys take a lot of data on like these patterns that change from year to year?
Yeah, I mean, so it's tough. Like the climate change thing is a much bigger topic and a much bigger question than, so you have one hot, dry stretch and everybody wants to somehow tie that to the changing climate. And it's hard to take 1 week or 1 month or even a year or two and say, oh, it's because of climate change. Climate change is a much bigger scope, a much bigger scale. And we're certainly seeing climate change. The climate, I mean, in my opinion, the climate's always changing, but it's just the term has gotten some legs over the last several years because it's changing more rapidly than, frankly, we've ever seen it. So I think that there are certain things like the sea level rise, which has been gradual but steady over the last several years. The hotter than average global temperatures, those are things we can tie directly to climate change. The little small, as we call them in meteorology, mesoscale events like a hurricane or a flood. It's hard to say that particular. Oh, did I say something wrong?
I'm happy about that.
Not like that.
It's hard. So it's hard to tie like a one summer's heat wave or an active hurricane season to a global changing climate. But certainly it factors in somehow. But it's hard to really make the direct connection. I mean, I think the biggest debate, and I don't know if there is still one, a debate over climate change at this point. I don't think anybody would debate that we're warming, not just our area, but the entire country and the entire globe. I think that there are still a few people that would debate the main reasons why. Most folks believe it's the increased CO2 atmosphere and it's, that heightens the greenhouse effect and it keeps us getting warmer and warmer. Now the naysayers would say, well, carbon dioxide is only like at its peak, instead of 3 parts per million, it's now 4 parts per million. So what the heck's the difference between three little molecules out of a million and then 4 little molecules out of a million? And so, I mean, that's a decent argument, right? It's hard to envision one added molecule out of a million changing the global temperature by several degrees. But there are a lot of scientists that have done a lot of work on this that say that is in fact the reason. So I'm not a climatologist, I'm not a long-range forecaster like that, so I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I think it's a fascinating sort of argument or study as to what exactly is most to blame for all the warming that's going on.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Probably not. I just rambled for like 2 minutes.
You guys, that was very informative. But do you guys, so does part of what you do, like the data and stuff that you guys collect, does that help the people who are tracking climate change more closely, or are you guys completely like separate from what they're doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, weather and climate are certainly related. Weather is basically, it's like the study, it's like a short-term look at what's going on. It's on a day-to-day and week-to-week and at most month-to-month basis, whereas climate is over tens and hundreds and thousands of years. So certainly all the data that we collect goes into the bank, right? Like, so every day, there are stations all over the country, and many of them in Massachusetts, that are National Weather Service stations, and they're collecting data of all sorts, and it all goes into the climate bank, and it keeps updating, literally minute by minute, right? So every piece of data that we get helps in its own little way to figuring out the climate puzzle. But I don't know that there are many climatologists that would look at day-to-day changes or stuff like that to help them predict 100 years from now. It's a bigger scale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, we're joined here by Terry Eliasen. He is actually, I think I would introduce myself if I were you, Terry. I think every time I would do it I think I would say Emmy award winning.
Oh, well.
Right? I think that's what I would do if I were you.
Well, funny you should mention that. I was lucky enough to win another Emmy over the weekend. Myself and Eric Fisher and Sarah Robleski at BZ, we did some for our tornado coverage back in the July of last year over the Cape. So that was great. That was an unexpected little victory, but I don't know. I don't think Emmy award winning means a whole lot to a whole lot of people. You know, I don't even know how much it means to me, frankly. But it's a nice little trophy to put on the mantle, and my wife seems to like it up there.
You guys, have you seen John Legend play during these streaming concerts? He's got all his Grammys right behind him. I think he's put that set up.
Very impressive. Yeah, I should start something just so I can show off my 2 trophies. Yeah. Maybe I'll put some of my baseball coaching trophies and make it look like it's a little.
Perfect. And Terry, of course, is the executive weather producer over at WBZ TV. Let's get off the actual weather for a little bit and talk personalities. One thing that stands out to me every time I think back is your relationship with Barry Burbank. I was at the Hall of Fame induction, and I know we've talked about this off the air before, but I was at the Hall of Fame induction. Was that this last summer? And you just did such a great job introducing him, and it was just a very sweet speech, and I could tell it's somebody that meant a lot to you over the years, of course, fairly recently retiring. But just your thoughts looking back on the last year without Barry.
Well, I love Barry. I just, in fact, you know, so Barry retired. For those that don't know, Barry retired, I guess it was a couple months ago now. Unfortunately, right in the middle of all this crazy coronavirus stuff, right? So we really, you know, he'd been at BZ for more than 42 years, and, you know, we've certainly celebrated him over the years, including that Hall of Fame induction. But somebody like Barry really deserves like a big send-off from the station, right? And when he retired, there were literally like 5 people that were allowed to go into the station, and Barry wasn't one of them, and neither was I. So it was a weird transition for Barry, for myself, for the weather team. Like, and we keep saying, like, when one day when we're all back in the studio, we're going to do it right. We'll have Barry back, and we'll, you know, let him say goodbye to everybody, either on air and off. But just personally speaking, you know, he's my favorite, and I've been doing this now, working at BZ for almost 20 years, and I was at Channel 7 for 5 years before that. Favorite person I've ever worked with, without a doubt, hands down. The most genuine, just good guy, family guy, honest, integrity. I can't say enough. There'll never be another Barry Burbank. I said that as part of my speech. You know, I miss him a ton. We're still talking and texting. You know, but you know, when the Corona thing, you know, is over, we'll certainly get together and chat again. You know, we both like going to Kimball's in Westford, so we'll probably hang out there.
Yeah.
But I miss the heck out of him.
There's a whole thing to that where like people will tell you when somebody makes it look effortless on TV, that's because they put like so much work into, really, it's not that easy to do. And like I remember, like I my mother used to say this. It seemed like everybody who grew up with Barry, which was pretty much everybody, would say that, like, oh, he just seems like such a nice guy. He comes across as such a nice guy. And it was it was true. Like off the air, he was just a great guy to work with, and a lot of energy. He was just fantastic to be around. Yeah,
just a genuine person, and he was hysterical too. I mean, he you know, when he wasn't exhausted from working morning, noon, and night at BZ, like, he was a really funny guy. You know, great sense of humor. Just like, you know, when we've hung out of work a little bit, and, you know, you wouldn't know he's 70 years old. Like, he could probably beat all of us in a road race, a bike race, and a swimming. Like, he's just, you know. I can't say enough. I just love him, and I'm going to miss the heck out of him, and working at BZ just won't be the same whenever we do end up going back to the station.
You used to tell me, and a couple of them are coming to mind right now. What is your favorite Barry story? Because I know there's a few.
Oh my goodness. There's so many. I mean, I think it was back, this was probably in the early 2000s. He was such a dedicated guy. He went through some real tough back issues for several years. And there was a stretch, and I mean, at least 1 or 2 days, where he couldn't stand up straight, and, you know, for the first hour or two after he woke up. So he drove to work. He would crawl on his hands and knees from the car into the door, into the studio. And then, you know, by the time you're on the air, he could work it out enough that he could, like, actually get a straight up posture. But I mean, who crawls on their hands and knees just to get to work? I mean, there aren't too many people that wouldn't call him sick that day. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's, I don't know, just like, it's just who he was. And he was old school like that. You know? He wasn't going to call in sick unless he literally couldn't get himself out of bed. So
that is unbelievable. And you've had some, of course, Barry, and she's going to go control the dog for a second. I will tell you what has happened here. This is a everyday occurrence. The mailman comes by.
Oh.
And it gets crazy. I don't know what it is about that uniform, but the dogs absolutely lose themselves.
That's like the most exciting part of your day now, right? Now that it's like, oh, Mailman's here, all right.
Yeah, unless we record the show right at that time. Sometimes I see it, I go, oh, brace for it.
You've probably been going into work, I assume, right?
I have been, yes. We're kind of like you guys. We get the skeleton crews over there, and so it's a lot different. I miss the people that aren't there, of course. That's kind of the whole thing about newsrooms, right? Is it that camaraderie of bouncing stuff off each other, and it's just not the same via text.
Zoom meetings are not the same. You can't replicate, being in the office. And I will, if I never have another Zoom meeting again, it will be too soon after all this is over for sure.
Sarah was just saying the same thing the other day. She's a teacher, so she's been teaching.
Oh wow!
Through.
Yeah, that's not the same thing. So definitely.
So do you think? Do you think you'll be going back to school in the fall? What are your thoughts?
They have not confirmed anything yet. I think they're just still waiting, and I think they're going to wait until like the very last minute to let us know what's going on. So
as a parent of two boys, I really hope that they go back to school, and I think
I think a lot of people do.
I never thought I would get to the point where my boys were like begging to go to school, but they're pretty much at that point. They miss their friends, and it's hard. You can't. It's just not the same at home on the computer.
What are the ages, Terry?
So my boys are 13 and 17. So my 17-year-old is going to be senior next year. So I really hope, unfortunately the seniors this year got such a bad deal. So I don't want to see that happen again, especially with my son being a graduate next year. So really hope he gets to enjoy his senior year.
We have it's funny. A lot of the guests we've had on have kind of fallen into that young kids age group for whatever reason, just coincidentally. And I've said, ooh, that must be tough having, 3, 5, and 7. But 13 and 17 must bring its own obstacles, though.
I think there are challenges at every age. I mean, we didn't, from it was good that, I helped some friends that have several young kids at home, and they were just like running. It's insane. I don't miss that part, and being cooped at home with like 3 young kids at home, I can't even imagine. Our boys, it was more like, thank God for PlayStation and Xbox. They could talk to their friends on there and get some socialization, if you can call it that. It was more like they wanted to see their boys, baseball crew, those types of things. It wasn't, so it's a different kind of stress, I guess. But I don't know. I just think, they miss everything. They miss playing sports. They miss, just seeing their buds.
And you guys are really tight as far as your working environment goes. That was always a tight TV newsroom too. I mean, I would go back there and that little small room with all the weather maps around and everything, and it was like you guys were always talking stuff out. It seems like you would be missing that a little bit.
For sure. I mean, twofold. First off, I may be one of the last people they let back in because we had such a tight little room back there. It's like our little sort of forecast powwow room, and we're all sitting kind of near each other. But that was part of what made it great. Is it'd be Barry and Eric and I or whoever's in there with us, and we've got all our computers set up. It's a great little setup, and it's hard to, I'm on the phone more than ever, talking to all the weather team every day, going over the forecast, talking about, what's our headline today, and this guy, the last forecasters thought this. What are your thoughts? It's not nearly as fun on the phone as it is in person, as for everybody,
Yeah, absolutely. I bet again, we're joined here by Terry Eliasen. What has been the most rewarding thing about quarantine? Is there something that is good about working from home? Work-wise, my wife is putting on herself right now.
I think it's been nice. And again, we have older boys. So, for the first couple months, we basically had a family game night. So every night from like 6 to 7 or 7 to 8, we'd have dinner together, would play like a Yahtzee game or cards or some kind of card game. And that's something we would not have done for sure. Everybody would have been out the door at practice at a friend's house. And this just forced us to kind of have more family time. So that was nice. Work-wise, I don't know. We've certainly learned how to work from home. Yeah. I never thought I could do my job from home. And sure enough, it's possible, even the on-air folks, we've figured it out,
It's going to be weird for you though, watching all your friends, even all the other stations too. Everybody's doing weather forecasts from their backyard. It's like that. I'm not used to that yet.
It's a little bizarre. Actually, we're starting to transition back into the station now. Eric's back in and Zach's back in the morning. But Dave Epstein's still, for the first couple of weeks, I'll tell you, it was hell. Like just trying to get everybody set up, trying to dial into all the computers we need to dial into, trying to get the right lighting, it was like one thing after another, one hurdle after another. But, I don't want to sound like it wasn't that bad. I'm sure a lot of people had it a lot worse, but it was difficult. But now I feel like now we've kind of got it down to a science, so to speak. And I can't believe that, a TV station can legit run without any pause with more than half their people at home. I mean, it's who would have thought?
Who would have thought is right. You're working in Boston. It's no shortage of, news, and that kind of works for weather too. Just wait a minute, right? That's the expression as far as the weather change.
You know that. I mean, you've been in Boston long enough. I mean, our New England, and that's part of what makes New England forecasting here so exciting and so interesting is that we clearly have 4 seasons here, although sometimes it feels like we go right from winter to summer. Yeah. But we can absolutely have, I don't know if you remember we had some snow late this season in April, and even some towns inland have some in May. And then a day later, it's like 80 degrees. And, so New England weather, I want to say, is unlike any around the country. And it's that's what keeps us going here. It never gets boring. Even in the summertime, there's always something to talk about. There's always differences at the coast. You have the coast and the Cape and the mountains, and the forecast is always different everywhere.
When we're doing this show from back at our studio and not in my kitchen, we end up having a lot of the high schoolers on. What would be your advice to the young wannabe meteorologists out there? How do you get to where you are?
Well, you need to have a certain love for math and science. That's for sure. There's a lot of it. Going through college as a meteorologist, it's 4 years of physics, 4 or 5 of calculus. I don't think people realize how much math is involved in the science of meteorology, because all these weather forecasts, we talk about the computer models all the time. All that is just complex calculus, derived equations. The atmosphere is just loaded full of equations to try to figure out what's going to happen next. So, and you need to kind of learn that. You need to know what goes into these computer models and what comes out to be able to interpret it and make your own forecast. So, if you love math and science, if you have a fascination of weather, and I feel like a lot of meteorologists find out at a young age, that just something clicks. Like all of a sudden, like for me, it was, and this is going to date me, but 1985, Hurricane Gloria went over my house. The eye of the hurricane came right over our house here in New England. And I was just like instantly fascinated, like what is going on? And from then on, I'm watching the Weather Channel every day. And I'm just, it just kind of clicked. All of a sudden I knew that this is like a passion of mine. And when I got to college, I was like, why not just do what I love, right? And that's just, the story goes on. Like almost everybody I know, like Barry, it was like hurricanes in 1953. He's not that old. Early 50s for Barry. Mish Michaels had a tornado that she went through. Like it's like something spurs it when you're young, and you just get this passion for it. So if you've got a passion, I would say go for it. I don't know that I would recommend. I mean, the media industry, as you know, TV, radio, I wouldn't say that it's booming right now, but I would never dissuade anybody from following their dream and passion. And if that's weather, there are a lot of other jobs outside of being on TV if you want to be a meteorologist.
Absolutely. It's so glamorous though, Terry, the whole thing. I mean, that's why it's so...
we're hanging on. I mean,
again, Terry Eliasen here. Actually, and one other thing I want to say, we're going to do rapid fire with you real quickly, which is just quick answers. First thing that comes to mind. But what do you get sick? Like actually get sick of people blaming you for the weather?
Yeah. There's never enough credit, when we get in, and these days it's right much more than it's wrong. I mean, I don't know that anybody would freely admit that, but absolutely, it does get old. Yes, the jokes get old.
Okay, very good. Rapid fire. First thing that comes to your mind. This is how we end the show with our guest. Favorite musician?
Pearl Jam.
Easy one. All right.
Pearl Jam.
Favorite concert you ever been to?
Pearl Jam. I've been to probably 30 to 40 Pearl Jam concerts.
Oh, I don't think I knew that about you. All right, so you're a diehard. Favorite movie?
I'm a big fan of the mobster movies, so Goodfellas, Casino, Reservoir Dogs, like all those. I love the Quentin Tarantino stuff. There
you go. Favorite TV show?
Well, Breaking Bad for sure. I think that series was like the best series ever. But right now, I don't really have one. My wife and I don't necessarily have anything that we're locked into. We're watching a lot of Netflix. I think we've seen everything on Netflix over the last 3 months. But all time, I think Breaking Bad, Seinfeld, of course, is a classic.
Yeah. Does that answer what is your favorite quarantine activity? Is it Netflix?
I mean, I don't know if it's a favorite one. You know what? Besides watching TV, my wife and I have hiked just about every local trail there is.
Wow.
So anything around, anything up in the Middlesex, or the valley here, anything in Westford, Chelmsford, Groton, well, we've hiked it, I think, in the last 3 months.
Gotcha. All right. So do you guys have dogs? Do you have a pet?
We don't. We have a cat that could care less about anything.
I don't even know what it's like to hike in peace and quiet when you're not being pulled into a
Right.
It must be nice. And favorite song to play on guitar, since I now know you're a guitar player, which I didn't know before.
Well, no. I want to learn.
Oh, you want to play? Oh, I thought you said you. Oh, okay.
No, I want to be you. I want to play the guitar and have the hair, but I'm not you yet. I'm working at it.
Okay. Well, I guess we came full circle with the hair then. There we are.
No, I've tried the online guitar lessons a few times, and I feel like I'm too old. Like, I needed to learn. I wish my parents had maybe do it when I was like 10.
I've always said that as well. I learned kind of later as well, but it's so much better if you can. I wish my dad forced me to sit down and
absolutely
do anything. Piano, I would love.
Give me some sort of talent. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure I would have fought it at the time.
Exactly.
No.
No doubt. I feel like I get on there's YouTube and I'm like fumbling and I get frustrated, and maybe you could give me some lessons one day.
Well, very good. Next, we'll do it out of quarantine. How about that?
There you go.
Terry, this was fun, man. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
That was a lot of fun. Thanks for welcoming us into your kitchen.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, very good. Terry Eliasen, one of the good guys. He's one of those people, Sarah, I always tell you that I miss a lot of the TV people. For those of you who don't know, when WBZ Radio moved to Medford, and, when iHeart bought us, we got this beautiful place in Medford now, which is all well and good. But the place that I grew up in the newsroom was that Soldiers Field Road place right in the Brighton-Allston line. And it was growing up with all those TV people that I was learning stuff from, and Terry was one of them. And I obviously didn't learn too much about the weather, but it was just fun hanging with those people every day. And I miss them greatly. So he's one of the good guys, as you can tell.
Yeah, he seemed very nice.
Yes, and informative. He tends to be one of those guys that I can learn stuff from. You know how some people will talk about all the tough, calculus and all that stuff, will go right over your head.
Mm-hmm.
Not him.
He breaks it down.
He says it in a way, and he can kind of tell if he thinks he's losing you too. I've always liked that about him.
Yeah.
If he sees it in my eyes, I guess. Then he has to explain it again.
Losing your attention.
Well, yeah, it's never happened to you, has it? Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. The dogs made an appearance in the show vocally.
Yes.
How are they doing out there?
I have no idea. They're quiet, so that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
All right, time to go check on the dogs. Enjoy the hot weather. It's going to be here for a little while, folks.
My hair's frizzy.
Would you like a?
I might. Yeah, maybe I should have put mine in a ponytail too before this. It gets bigger and bigger as the show goes on.
So it's fine. Humidity. I think the next show for us, I think, is going to be. I won't give it away. I'm not sure we have it yet, so I'm not going to give it away yet. It might be tennis related.
Oh.
There's a lot going on in the tennis world. A lot of coronavirus cases that some of the players were poorly behaved in another country, partying together. And I think it's not a good sign for the U.S. Open that is still scheduled for the fall in New York City. I think it was a bad week for tennis. And I may have an authority on that, but I'm not going to throw him under the bus if he doesn't make the show. So we'll see you next time. My name is Drew Moholland. My wife, Sarah Conway, for the dogs Henry and Mookie, who made their appearance, especially when the mailman showed up. They enjoyed the show as well. We'll see you next time. Live from Drew's Kitchen. Bye-bye now.